The blues prodigy Robert Johnson only left us 29 songs, but he left behind a legend that has haunted the music industry and all his fans for nearly a century now. It started with a midnight meeting with a mysterious stranger at a desolate crossroads, and it ended with his tragic and sudden passing at the young age of 27. Let's get into it. A viewer requested this story, and it is a whole rabbit hole to go down. That's why I'm so late getting it to you guys tonight. I've been researching this story for hours. But Robert was an absolutely legendary blues man, and he went on to influence a lot of other great musicians like Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin. And he was a very early inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Robert grew up on a cotton plantation in the Mississippi Delta, but his parents split up when he was still a boy, and he went to live with his dad in Memphis. That's where he was exposed to blues music and discovered his calling. Now, he had a friend named Son House, and Son said that Robert could play the harmonica really well, but he couldn't hardly play the guitar at all. As a matter of fact, people would ask him to stop playing if he tried to play the guitar. Well, Robert ended up moving away for a couple of years, and when he came back and Son saw him again, he was a virtuoso. He played the blues way ahead of his time. As a matter of fact, he had a very distinct sound. Nobody else sounded like Robert. Now, in those 2 years he was gone, he had befriended and was living with another great blues guitarist, Ike Zimmerman, and they were known to practice in graveyards in the middle of the night, so it wasn't long before rumors started to develop. But Robert was a loner and a Rolling Stone, and he was known to disappear. He would travel to town, mostly throughout the South, but he was known to go points further. But he did manage to get a couple of studio albums in, and he left us with 29 songs. Among the songs he left behind were Hellhounds on My Trail, Me and the Devil Blues, and Crossroads Blues. So let's get back to those Crossroads. The story goes that Robert met up with a very dark, mysterious stranger at a lonesome crossroads in the middle of the night. Now, the stranger was very well dressed, had a wide-brimmed hat on, and in some versions of the story, the man also had a hairless dog with him. Well, he asked Robert if he wanted to be a great blues musician, and in some version of the stories go that dog howled at that time, and it made the strangest but most beautiful sound that Robert had ever heard. Well, in other versions, Robert just said yes, but either way, he said yes. So the stranger asked for his guitar. Robert handed it to him, and the stranger tuned the guitar, played a couple of songs on it, and then gave it back to Robert. And ever after that, Robert was a maestro. Robert was basically a savant with that guitar. Like I said, he had a sound like nobody can duplicate it, really, even to this day. The touring and recording didn't last but a couple of years, though. He was 27 years old the night that he was in a club, and he collapsed on his hands and knees on all fours, and he started howling and barking like a dog. They got him moved to a room with a bed, but he didn't last long before Robert was gone. Now, they did eventually track down a death certificate for Robert, but there was no cause listed on it. But there's several theories or several stories as to what happened. One is that he was poisoned. There's a story that he got a little too friendly with the wife of one of the patrons in that club, and they put something in his drink. Another theory or story is that he had syphilis. But the most popular story is that it was the devil coming to collect his due. You see, that's who the stranger was at those crossroads. People say that was the devil, and the price for that gift was his soul. What do you guys think happened to Robert Johnson? We'll never know. But what we do know is that he left behind some amazing music, and he was gone too soon. That's been Jay's Haunted Appalachia for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the story of Robert Johnson and the Crossroads. Keep sending me those stories and suggestions, guys. Message me, mail me, I don't care. Y'all know I'll just be tickled to hear from you. And keep Appalachia haunted, y'all.